Hey, ladies and gentlemen, the doctor is in the house. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 580, where we will be talking about the mitochondria, continuing from last week, and it all has to do with energizing your life and how these mitochondria can shape your health. So today will be a short summary and a short podcast because I am on the west coast of Florida. Rain is starting, even though the Hurricane Milton is still maybe 700-800 miles west of us, but it is heading toward our area. And so I wanted to get this podcast in before we lose electric and connectivity, etc. And ask for your prayers for everybody on the west coast of Florida, where this is a Category 3, 4, or 5 hurricane. They don't know yet. So that's where we stand, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll summarize where we left off. We discussed how mitochondrial dysfunction plays a critical role in many diseases, including neurodegenerative conditions, autoimmune diseases, metabolic disorders, and chronic fatigue. These little mitochondria powerhouses, they produce ATP. And that is needed for a lot of vital processes. There's quadrillion mitochondria. They're in every cell of the body except the red blood cells. You can't find them there, but they're loaded in the heart and kidney and liver, which are really important organs. So mitochondria, they're powerhouses of our cells. They produce this ATP, but when they become impaired for whatever reason, genetics, oxidative stress, a big one, environmental toxins, which includes medication and vaccines, or the entire body suffers and we age. Infections also play a role in the long-term impact of anybody that's had COVID. And I think we touched on methylene blue, but that's going to have to be, we'll touch on it a little bit today, but that's going to have to be 1 or 2 podcasts by itself, because it really is rocket fuel for our mitochondria. It is rocket fuel. And it has to do with cancer even, autism. And I can't believe how I've been talking about methylene blue for 4 years at least, and now it's like the topic of conversation of all the alternative doctors. You won't find the allopathic doctors talking about it. And it's going to be in a lot of trouble because it's inexpensive. It's inexpensive. And methylene blue, ladies and gentlemen, it checks off a lot of boxes for what it can do. Anti-inflammatory. Boy, isn't that great? Cognitive health. Isn't that fantastic? Antioxidant. Cellular aging. Wouldn't you like to take something that could slow down aging and help with longevity? Increase blood flow? So, as I say, that's going to take another program in itself. But there are some allopathic doctors that might recommend some what we call conventional treatments. And like everything else, they focus on managing symptoms. Big pharmaceutical companies want to have you on their payroll for life. Just think about it critically. They don't really cure many diseases. They just contain them so that you can keep coming back for more drugs. And that's another podcast in itself. How all this money being spent is meant, they say it's spent for a cure, but it's really meant just to control not cure. So one of the things they might recommend, and with good reason, is coenzyme Q10. It's a naturally occurring antioxidant. It plays a role in this ATP production. In individuals with mitochondrial dysfunction, CoQ10 can be depleted. So supplementing it can improve energy production and might result in reduced fatigue, especially in conditions like heart disease and fibromyalgia. But a lot of people have the cholesterol, not the people, but doctors have a cholesterol derangement syndrome. And billions of dollars have been made by the pharmaceutical companies from statins. And what do statins do? Decrease CoQ10. Is it any wonder statins are associated with so many diseases? And why people that take statins are tired? Again, they are not getting to the root cause of the tiredness. They are just treating the symptom of tiredness. But in this case, using CoQ10 is not a bad idea. Now, there are some synthetic antioxidants they might give you, like Epi 743 or idabenenone for mitochondrial disorders affecting the nervous system. And in some cases, conventional treatment might be just antioxidant treatment. Again, treating the symptoms to keep the free radicals down. And again, since a lot of them don't even know what the mitochondrial dysfunction is, they might recommend physical therapy, especially if you have a myopathy due to mitochondrial disease. And that can keep up your muscle strength and improve your mobility. But regular exercise should be done anyway, but again, treating the symptom. And if indeed there is a genetic reason for mitochondrial dysfunction, they're looking that's in the experimental stages right now. I'm not going to go into all the alternative and holistic treatments because we just don't have time today. But there's a growing interest, I would say, among a lot of people that are displeased with conventional allopathic care and repeated visits, getting more and more drugs and drugs for the side effects of the drugs you are taking. So what are some nutritional supplements? Well, the CoQ10, that I agree 100% with. There's a potent antioxidant that promotes the growth of new mitochondria, and we will call that mitochondrial biogenesis, PQQ. Now, there's been some research show that it might improve cognitive function and reduce inflammation and enhance overall mitochondrial performance. Pyroquinolene quinone, PQQ. Magnesium, that's essential for ATP production. Magnesium helps regulate mitochondrial function and energy metabolism. And B vitamins, especially B1, which is thiamine, B2, which is riboflavin, and B3, which is niacin, critical for energy production. And we'll go into this again when we get back from the hurricane, but we'll talk about niacinamide and N-acetyl plus for its role in mitochondrial function. Now, what can you do without anything? Well, you could try a ketogenic diet, a diet that's high in fats and low in carbs. That forces the body to use fats for energy. And that diet does increase mitochondrial efficiency and reduces oxidative stress. Intermittent fasting is another program. And this practice has also been shown to stimulate autophagy. What is autophagy, you say? Well, that's the body's way of cleaning out damaged cells, getting rid of damaged or dead cells, and promote the formation of new healthy mitochondria. And intermittent fasting can be just not eating for 12 hours, maybe 8 o'clock at night, 8 in the morning, 7 at night to 7 in the morning, a good 12 to 14 hours or 16 hours of intermittent fasting. And as we've been saying for years, lifestyle and stress management are really important in any disease and influence the genetic expressions. And exercise, physical activity is one of the most effective ways to improve mitochondrial function. And stress reduction, like practicing yoga, meditation, deep breathing, help to lower stress levels. Now, there is an elephant in the room, and it's called the thyroid. We'll touch a little bit on this, but I think episode 571 of Dr. Ron Unfiltered Uncensored, we discussed this with my friend Dr. Jerry Smith. We talked about the thyroid, its role in the mitochondria and general health, and how to improve it. And I talk a lot about thyroid because Dr. Broda Barnes in the 50s and 60s, he started the conversation, but people didn't know what he was talking about, even though he was an MD, PhD. It's often overlooked, especially subclinical hypothyroidism. But the thyroid plays a very essential role in mitochondrial health. It produces hormones, T3, T4. It also produces T1 and 2, but we don't talk about them. But these hormones directly influence mitochondrial function by what? Affecting ATP production. So if you have an underactive thyroid, that's called hypothyroidism, mitochondrial function slows down, and you get fatigue and weakness and poor metabolic health. Mitochondrial dysfunction. So that's why I say, the CoQ10, the B vitamins, all important, but let's get to the root of the problem. If you have hyperthyroidism, overactive thyroid, that can overstimulate your mitochondria, and then you have too much oxidative stress, which can cause mitochondrial imbalance and damage. And we talked about the treatment in episode 571, but it involves iodine, selenium, thyroid hormone replacement, and natural thyroid support, different herbs. And this mitochondrial dysfunction, ladies and gentlemen, I think I'm going to be talking about it for the next couple of weeks because it's a far-reaching disorder. It affects multiple systems in the body, and no one's looking for it that I know of. I have a friend whose wife has had an autoimmune disease, and he heard my program on fatigue because she's fatigued and whatever. He says, do you think I should tell the doctors about methylene blue? I said, you can do it, but it won't do any good. And it didn't do any good. They didn't know what he was talking about. But again, root causes. We're always going to try and understand the root causes, whether it's the oxidative stress, genetic mutations, or the thyroid, so we can address the problem through a combination of practices. So we need to keep our mitochondria healthy. And then to shine a little bit of light, more light on mitochondrial health, there's something called photobiomodulation or photooxidative treatment, but photobiomodulation. It's really exciting. And again, your alternative docs know about it. Allopathic docs just think you're crazy. But it's really gaining attention. It feels good for me because the people that are doing it tell me they are feeling great. It has the ability to improve mitochondrial function. You may have heard it as red light therapy or low-level laser therapy, LLL therapy. What is it? It involves exposing your body to specific wavelengths of light, usually red or near infrared, which can penetrate the skin and stimulate cellular processes, particularly in the mitochondria. That's really exciting. Really exciting. And it has a biochemical and physiological way of working. It interacts with cytochrome C oxidase. That's a key enzyme. And somehow I'm going to have to try and figure out how to work cytochrome C oxidase and PGI1 into our equation, because they are really important when it comes to oxidative stress. But this cytochrome C oxidase is a key enzyme in the mitochondrial electron transport chain. So when these specific wavelengths of red light and near-infrared light hit the mitochondria, they enhance the activity of this enzyme. And what do you get? The thing that you need most, ATP production. So this process not only boosts cellular energy, but also reduces oxidative stress and inflammation in conditions like like we've been talking about, chronic fatigue, muscle weakness, and even the neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Gosh, energizing in the cells from within. And research has shown that photobiomodulation can improve mitochondrial function in various tissues. Guess what? The muscles, they have a lot of mitochondria, the skin, and the brain. There are people that have reported better recovery from injuries, reduced pain, and overall improvement in energy and cognitive function. It's a non-invasive therapy that it taps into our body's natural healing potential. It taps into that healing pharmacy that we have within our body. Photobiomodulation. And there are specific wavelengths of red light. They're in the 860 nanometer range, and the near infrared is higher than that. Again, the subject of another program. But if the thyroid is the elephant in the room, the mitochondria cell membrane is the one that absolutely no one talks about, except Professor Peskin. I've heard him mention this. And we will have him on the program because he talks a lot about the cell membrane and how the cell membranes of most people are adulterated with adulterated fatty acids and taking fish oils. But this mitochondrial membrane is not just a barrier. It's really an incredibly specialized structure, and it has a central role in the mitochondria's ability to produce energy and protect itself against damage. And I think, this is something that I'm just now critically thinking about. I really think you could do everything right, photobiomodulation, take the right supplements, fast, have a keto diet, go earthing or grounding where you can get rid of an overdose of electrons out of your body, let them go back into the earth. But if you don't pay attention to the mitochondrial membrane, I don't think anything's going to happen. Because the mitochondrial membrane is where the electron transport takes place. This electron transport is responsible for creating a gradient that drives the production of ATP. So the whole purpose of keeping your mitochondria happy is to get this ATP. And if that membrane is compromised, it disrupts this electron transport. And it leads to what? A drop in ATP, and therefore causes more fatigue and other symptoms. And a damaged membrane can be responsible for an increased leakage of reactive oxygen species, which can lead to oxidative stress, which leads to further mitochondrial damage. Now, when we have Professor Peskin, we can talk about this mitochondrial membrane because it's different than the cell membrane. It's made up of a specific lipid named cardiolipin, which is unique to mitochondria. And it's crucial for the proper functioning of this electron transport. It stabilizes the protein involved in ATP production. See how we keep coming back to that? And if that cardiolipid is damaged, it can lead to cell death and is a contributing factor in many chronic diseases. See how we get back to the root cause? Not just giving the CoQ10. See if we can find out what the root cause of this mitochondrial dysfunction is. But some things are basic. It comes down to focusing on a good diet, using parent essential oils. Do not use fish oils. Do not use vegetable oils because they are adulterated and they form like a saran wrap around the membrane. So no nutrients can get in, and just as importantly, no waste products can get out. And of course, there are supplements that people talk about, like vitamin E, CoQ10, alpha lipoic acid, that help to maintain that integrity of the membrane. But you can just make sure you eat eggs that have choline in them. And also eggs that have phosphatidylcholine in it, which they support the cell membrane. So my thoughts are that if we have a healthy mitochondrial membrane, we can ensure the mitochondria continue to produce ATP efficiently, reduce oxidative stress on the cell, and combine that approach with photobiomodulation. What a strategy for overall health. Photobiomodulation, red light therapy, low laser therapy is a fascinating approach, ladies and gentlemen, to improving mitochondrial function. It helps people recover more. It enhances ATP production. And don't forget about that mitochondrial membrane, often overlooked. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, even in the podcast that I listen to in alternative medicine. So we have to support both the membrane and the energy-producing processes. Well, we've been going down a journey, that's for sure. We've had a journey here. Let's see where I am. All right, 23 minutes. Let's just talk a little bit about methylene blue, because it's something that I am personally associated with two people who have had their lives changed. A young man diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's coming back. A woman who had trouble remembering everything coming back. And I know if you talk to your doctor about it, he said, it's just a dye. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. It doesn't do anything. Well, it's used in fish tanks too, but it keeps I think a parasite off of fish in a bowl. So you can get it, but it's contaminated. And when we talk about methylene blue for human consumption, I'm always talking about pharmacological grade, pharmaceutical grade methylene blue that doesn't have the heavy metals in it and doesn't have formaldehyde in it. But methylene blue, it has been used in the past to treat malaria. It's not just a staining agent, but it has been investigated a long time, and more recently, even at the University of Pennsylvania, investigated for its effect on the brain. And you cannot talk about methylene blue unless you talk about mitochondria. They go hand in hand. And that's why I say methylene blue, if properly used to enhance mitochondrial function, to have a great electron carrier, this electron transport, improving overall energy production, reducing oxidative stress. What a game changer. But the problem is it's going to be eliminated or something because there's no money to be made. It's relatively inexpensive, and you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on eBay, whatever. So it's in trouble to start with. So there are a lot of promising studies and more coming. But guess what? Here's the exciting part for me. When you combine that methylene blue with photodynamic modulation or photobiomodulation, geez, that light just activates these photosensitizing agents like methylene blue. It's really, really exciting to see people have their energy restored. It's incredible. I just, it's incredible. So I don't have another word for it, but we'll talk about dosing and side effects. I mean, there is one thing that we'll get into it if you're on certain types of antidepressants. You have to be careful with methylene blue. Sure, it may upset your stomach if you take too much, but again, it's a hormetic drug. The more you take, the less it's effective. So you want to always err on the low side of methylene blue. So maybe we'll do that next week if God willing, with the hurricane gone, explore the potentials of methylene blue in the realm of neurodegenerative diseases, mitochondrial function, and photobiomodulation. I think that would be an exciting way to continue. And gosh, that made me dry talking about that. So we have a lot of mitochondria. We know about their membrane. We have to talk with Professor Peskin about the parent essential oils, and don't overdose on fish oils, because fish oils give you pharmacological doses like 600-700 times more than the cell needs. And fish oils are antifreeze for deep water fish. They're toxic in those doses. They clog up those membranes. They clog up the outer membrane and the inner membrane, and that space between the two that is unique to the mitochondria. And these membranes are phospholipids. They have oil in them. We have to keep them clean. And, what do you call a body that has no energy? Well, it's called a corpse. And energy is important in our body, and our body has a certain voltage that it operates on. And so do our cells, and so does the mitochondria. The mitochondria has this strong electrochemical gradient. They measured it at 180 millivolt potential difference across those two membranes. Now they're finding that is critical for what? ATP production. So this mitochondrial membrane, as I alluded to earlier, I have not paid attention to it. I'm not sure Professor Peskin has paid attention, but I can't be wrong because I don't want to speak for him. But this mitochondrial membrane system is very specialized. It's specialized for energy production. It has a unique double membrane structure, unique lipid composition, high protein content, and excessive folding that contribute to its function in cellular respiration. We'll get into why it's folded. It gives it more surface area. So I could even go into fish oils and why you should not be using the commercial fish oils. They've never been shown, even in Cochrane databases, to cure anything. But they do have an anticoagulant property. As we get older and we fall, and we are going to fall, and you hit our head and you're on an anticoagulant or pharmacological doses of fish oil, you have a risk of bleeding. So this is Dr. Ron. I'm the host of Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored. Dr. Ron, Unfiltered, Uncensored here on Podbean. I'm also after the show airs on BitChute, on Dr. Ron, on Rumble, Dr. Ron Unfiltered Uncensored, LinkedIn, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, all carry Dr. Ron Unfiltered Uncensored. So if you enjoy this talking on mitochondria, and don't forget, if you have the time, go back to the episode 571, where I talk a little bit about medical errors in the United States, but we also talk with Dr. Smith about the thyroid and its role in controlling your metabolism in every cell of your body. And how Dr. Smith will give you some valuable insights into dietary changes and supplements. So, conventional medicine often falls short. And I want to remind you that we have the power to heal ourselves holistically. And if you're dealing with chronic fatigue, low energy, and other diseases from mitochondrial dysfunction, and you have to throw in thyroid, that would be probably a good place to start with episode 571. And last week's episode was, if this is 580, would be 579. And I really do appreciate everyone listening and the favorable comments we're getting. And our increase in rankings always are up to 13 on the internet now. So I do appreciate that. And I do say that with an attitude of gratitude. And everyone here in Florida will appreciate your prayers for safety during this upcoming hurricane, which is scheduled to hit the west coast of Florida sometime Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday evening. And God willing, we will be here next week, and hope you can handle the truth. Because this is what I'm telling you. I want you to check it out. But it's the difference, as I said last week, between truth and fiction. Fiction is logical, easy to understand. We're always searching for the truth. The truth might be a little harder to understand. You may have to work a little harder at it. But I know my listeners can handle it. So be a warrior, not a worrier, and we'll see you next week.
Hey everybody, Dr. Ron's finished for today. I hope you got some good wisdom for what the man had to say. If it's all about good health, he's the man you got to see. He has a lot more answers for you. So tune in next week when the doctor is in the house. Or when the doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. I'm sure he can tell you just what to do. The doctor is in the house. The doctor is in the house. Let the doctor know what's bothering you. When the doctor is